Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook and on YouTube today for another episode of Freethinker Friday. I have some amazing people here with me, and I would love to do a quick round of introductions. I'm Natalie Waters-Siam. I'm the Director of Admission and Communication at MPA. Bill, would you get started?
Hello, my name is Bill Hudson. I have the great fortune of serving as head of school at Mounds Park Academy, now in my 9th year.
And Renee, would you introduce yourself? Renee, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm Renee Wright. I am the lower school director, and I oversee pre-K through 4th grade here at Mounds Park Academy.
Wonderful. Lamar?
There we go. Lamar Shingles, I'm the Director of Equity and Belonging. So I oversee diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at MPA.
Mark?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Siegel. I am the upper school director in my 6th year at MPA, and my wife and I are also the proud parents of a current 8th grader.
Randy?
Hi, everybody. My name is Randy Comfort. I'm the Director of Guidance in the upper school here at MPA, and this is my 19th year at the school. Thanks for coming today.
And Jen?
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jen Milam. This is my 4th year as middle school director at MPA, and I, too, am a proud parent of 2 Panthers, one in 8th grade and one in 10th. Great to see you all.
Wonderful. So you might be wondering, what are these 6 C's that we're talking about today? And I'll just share them briefly with you. We are going to dive deep into each one in just about 30 minutes. They are to think critically, to communicate clearly, to work collaboratively, develop creativity, embrace culture, and utilize connectivity. And like I said, we're going to dive deep into each of those. We at MPA believe that content is essential and incredibly important, but we also believe that developing these skills are just as important, if not more important, for our students' futures. These are really at the foundation of the MPA experience and have been since our founding in 1982. To give you a sense, one of our very first slogans was, "We don't teach kids what to think, we teach them how." And that really is reflective of the 21st century skills that we're going to be talking about today. So I just want to encourage our audience to post questions in the chat. They're more than welcome. I know we're having a little bit of a technical issue streaming to Facebook right now, but we do have our YouTube viewers live, and we'll be sure to send out the recording to our Facebook viewers, anybody who missed it. So we'll take those questions either along the way or at the end if we don't have a moment to address them. And they're really, really welcome. This is designed just to be a really casual conversation about topics that matter at MPA. So those questions are really, really welcome. Bill, let's get started with you. As a head of school, you spend a lot of time thinking and talking and dreaming about the future of that our students will experience. Maybe talk a little bit about why you see these skills as so critically important.
Yes, thank you. You're right, Natalie. I do spend a lot of time thinking about this, almost nonstop, especially these days with the additional complexity and uncertainty that COVID and the pandemic have presented us. But a lot of people are familiar with the word VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. That's our reality now, and our world is rapidly changing, and therefore it's even harder to predict the future. I like to kind of say and to think we're preparing kids for jobs that don't even exist right now. So how could we be effective with that? What I do know is that our current educational model, that of education pretty much around the world, was really based on, the industrial age back, at the turn of the 19th century. And not much has changed from that, even though we've moved through the information age and we're now in what some people call the conceptual age. But it is these critical thinking skills that students really need to use to make sense of the knowledge, the information. We have computers and AI that can do much of what human beings used to be able to do, but they can't do what human beings can do, and that is empathy. That's critical thinking. That's curiosity. many of those 6 C's. So, I think that what we're really talking about is, doubling down on some of these 6 C's and creating those opportunities for our students, first of all, to be architects of their own learning, agency-based, and also to be fostering the skills like empathy, critical thinking, creativity, et cetera, so that they can solve the complex problems. We don't know what knowledge necessarily will be needed in 10 or 20 years, but we do know that these 6 C's are critical to preparing students to be able to deal with the complexity and the ambiguity, the uncertainty that we know is in front of our young people, because that's what's in front of us right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. That's a nice segue into critical thinking. And I've asked Mark to share a few examples of how you see our students really practicing those critical thinking skills every day in the upper school.
Thanks, Natalie. And I think it's a perfect segue from what Bill said. It's really hard to walk the halls of MPA or into our classrooms and not see students thinking critically about our world. As we know, critical thinking is when the brain is active, when it's making connections to the material that they're learning in their classes, and to applying their own original thoughts to the concepts that they're learning. As I think about walking the hallways and walking into these classes in the upper school, it can be found in our physics classroom, where students learn about mass and force and how they're displaced on a bridge on a roadway. We have a great bridge project where the students are given 15 small sticks of balsa wood and 2/3 of an ounce of glue to build their own bridges, and then see how much weight it can support. Oftentimes, many hundreds of times their own weight, as literal weights from our weight room are hung on those bridges. We're in a 10th grade English classroom where students just don't read the tragedy of Macbeth, but they're assigned parts of the story to bring to life as a small group, seeing their acting skills come to life as they portray this really famous tragedy is unbelievable. And the fun that they have bringing that tragedy to life is incredible. And in our advanced Spanish class, where students are assigned a Latin American story, where each student reads about the Mayans or the Incas or the Aztecs, or a Latin American conquest that happens during that similar time frame, the students then figure out a way to visualize the story in an engaging, in an accurate, and a comprehensible way. And then what they do is they figure out how it's going to best be presented to a group of 8th grade Spanish students. So when we talk about critical thinking, we're just not talking about reading or doing rote learning. We are actually talking about diving in and doing that problem solving and looking at the higher order thinking skills that are so critical.
Thank you, Mark. Our next 6 C that we're going to talk about is communication. And we start practicing communication at MPA from a very, very young age, all the way through lower school. Renee, as the lower school director, tell us about some of the ways that our littlest learners practice effective communication and why it's so important to start so early.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I'd love to share a little bit about communication in lower school. But I really have to bring us back to the mission. It really starts with the mission. I mean, we say that we teach students to communicate effectively. So it's a high priority, and our teachers are striving every day to help students communicate effectively. Starting in pre-K, well, through 4th grade, but starting in pre-K, we really give students a lot of opportunities to share their thoughts, their feelings, even their opinions. And we really believe that students need to know that they have a voice and that what they think really does matter at MPA. There are a couple of examples I'd like to share with you. And one of them is that on most days, classrooms start out with a meeting or a community circle where students are talking and sharing their ideas. And each student is given the opportunity to share what they think, perhaps about a question that's being posed that day, or about a topic, or maybe even about a problem that needs to be solved within the classroom. So giving students that opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas really enhances the idea of community in the classroom, but also lets students know that they are highly valued and what they think matters, and that their thoughts and ideas can actually make a difference in our school or in that classroom. We also have a Monday morning meeting, and that is a way for our lower school to come together and bond. Students play a huge role in that meeting. We do follow an agenda, And students participate in that agenda by communicating, once again, their thoughts, their words, and their ideas. They also are practicing public speaking skills at the same time. So students come together and share their thoughts and ideas, share what's happening in the classroom. And at pre-K, it might just mean students coming up to a microphone and sharing their name, introducing themselves. When they're in second grade, it might be a small group of students that are working together to present an idea, perhaps using a script. But then by fourth grade, students are able to come to the microphone and really share their ideas kind of freely, without a script, without notes, and they're really just talking and sharing. So the growth that we see from pre-K through fourth grade in lower school is pretty phenomenal. But the most important piece of that is students do have a voice, and they do have the ability to communicate effectively and clearly, but they also are learning to listen to one another and to value each other's thoughts, ideas, and opinions.
Yeah. Thank you, Renee. That listening piece, I'm glad you mentioned that, is so important. And it's a really big part of effective communication. So thanks for mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to fast forward through all of the years back up to upper school with Randy Comfort. Just this week, we had 4 of our seniors present their senior speeches to the entire upper school student body. Talk a little bit about that opportunity, Randy, and why we do that, how they prepare, and why it's really the culminating experience and the culminating way to present their effective communication skills.
Thanks, Natalie. I sure will. And just to recap something that Renee had shared, is that public speaking is something that's an integral part of the entire curricular experience for the high school. It's not the culminating of the senior speech is true. That is an endpoint event to some degree, but it's been developed for many, many years by lots of practice. So students, they write in every curricular area, they present in every curricular area, they review and critique in every curricular area. So there's so much development of effective communication along the way in interpersonal, in micro and macro versions of them. So our senior speech is one of the graduation requirements from MPA that allows each senior to have their moment to share who they are, a part of who they are, their experience, their growth, their transformation, if you will. In the fall, those are done to just members of their senior class, but students can then also sign up to volunteer to speak to the entire upper school in the springtime, which was what happened this week. So they're speaking to the entire high school population around their experiences. It can be very vulnerable. It can be very insightful. They're often extraordinarily powerful. And it's one of those things that it's hard to describe how effective that really is in having peers speak to each other directly. We have seminar program in the high school where there is a 9th grade, an 11th grade, and a 12th grade seminar. And each of those things, again, are focused on different parts of student development and kind of targeting those areas of skills. And in the senior speech in particular, they work with one of our faculty who is a longtime speech coach to develop those personalized statements. They do a service project as part of their high school experience as a graduation requirement. And that's a different type of effective communication in that they have to work with communities that they're a part of and represent the school, but also themselves individually. So there's just a never-ending supply of opportunity to engage with their world, to communicate with those all around them, and to make sure that we really understand how interconnected we are and how effective that communication has to be able to go out into the world and do things that are unsolved and fix things that are unresolved. And that's why that's such an important part of our program.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about collaboration. The idea that a rigorous college prep education can be and should be collaborative as opposed to competitive is something that's really uniquely MPA. And in fact, it's one of the things that one of our seniors spoke about just this week, ironically. Jen, let's shift to the middle school a little bit, talk about what collaboration looks like in the middle school in our classes and why that's so important, especially in those middle school years.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. To build on everything that everybody said, I also want to share that I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts this morning, and I was reminded they were speaking to Martha Beck, who's a a great author, a longtime author, about being your best self. And she reminded me that all of us at all times in our life are seeking true connection to each other. And that really is at the core of collaboration and at the core of what we value in relationships at MPA. In middle school, I'm going to talk about sort of the big three that we talk about here, which is academic, arts, and athletics. And you can see collaboration across all of those areas in middle school, of course. I could share with you any number of collaborative projects that students work on, from their SEEK projects in science in 5th grade to even their novel projects. This year, one of our 7th graders, 2 of them actually, decided to write 2 independent novels, but that they interacted with each other. Their characters crossed over. And so you could see them writing together, which was a really exciting process. I don't know too many 7th graders who just love to write a novel, but ours do, and that was a really cool feature this year. On into our 8th graders who culminate their science and design with their Future Cities project. And the cool thing about that project is not only that it's a collaboration of the students, but of their teachers. And our teachers model collaboration in our building, and that makes it a practice and sort of just part of our culture here at MPA, with our teachers collaborating. Our students see that, and it carries over into their academics. Athletics in the middle school is very collaborative and a lot of fun. And our no-cut policy at MPA really helps for that to be the case. My favorite story to tell about athletics actually is when my daughter was in the 8th grade on an undefeated girls basketball team, and she was not the most exceptional basketball player. She'll probably hate watching this recording a little later, but she found her place as a team member and an integral part of that 8th grade team, and loved to be with them. We do love to win, and we really like to play hard, and it's all part of building that collaboration over competition. The last thing I want to touch on is our arts program, which is exceptional at MPA. I have not been in another school where our arts program is as exceptional as it is. And whether it's an ensemble or a theater production or even a choir, I often talk to my older kids in middle school that a choir is a lot like an athletic team. We may not always be on our top game, but it's part of being a small part of a whole that helps to build skills like imagination and empathy. And our slogan, dream big, do right, our motto that guides all the things that we do, is reinforced by that commitment to collaboration. And when we're collaborative, what places like Google and Microsoft and all of those big companies will say is that we can teach the skills, but we can't always teach our young workers, our new employees, how to work with other people. And I think the hallmark of an MPA education are those relationships, and that's grounded in an ethos of collaboration.
Jen, you mentioned Google. Google actually did a really fascinating study of their top performing teams to see what their skills and knowledge and core attributes were. And it was actually not technology related skills that really set their top performing teams apart, but it was all of these 6 C's. So thanks for touching on that and reminding me of that study. It's fascinating. We're going to talk next about creativity. Jen touched on that with the arts, but Bill, I would love for you to share a little bit about why developing creativity is so important and why MPA really leans into the arts.
Great. Yeah, I love to talk about our arts program, and it's really in thinking about, again, the future of education and our 6 C's. I was thinking about another study that I read once, Natalie, of that. It was looking at entrepreneurs, and across the board, they did a meta study of entrepreneurs. And when they distilled to the most what was most in common across, it was really early and sustained exposure to the arts. And it might seem a little scratch your head. Why is that the case? Let me give an example. I was out visiting alumni in different parts of the country, and I met with one of our alums that has started a really successful software program that and is in Silicon Valley, and as not only a creator, an innovator, an entrepreneur. And I asked him, I said, what was it about? Because he pointed to MPA as the foundation of his success. And I said, well, tell me more. What was it that helped you be successful? Why do you say that about MPA? what class was it or course that you would point to? And I figured he was going to talk about something about math or the sciences, which again, we have strong math and science program, but he said it was photography. And I said, really, tell me more about that. And he said, well, it's curiosity. When you're out there, sent out with your camera to capture an image, you have to be curious. You have to be those essential skills that build creativity of multiple perspectives, taking risks, being open to critical feedback, applying knowledge of the camera, of the setting, of the lighting, in new ways. So, really, it makes sense that creativity is really going to be at the core of what we do and how that comes through the arts. People say you can't teach creativity. I guess I would agree. However, but you can present opportunities to be creative, to create conditions for creativity, to foster and fuel creativity. Another example from the arts, the other day I wrote about this in my weekly message. I was walking down the hallway on my way to the front door in the morning to greet our lower school students. And I overheard music coming from our band room. And again, it's 7:30 in the morning. It's 0 hour, which is an opportunity for students to take some additional classes. And I followed my ear into the band room, and it was our jazz ensemble that was playing incredible music, jazz, which I really, really love. And I started to think about it. Again, what is at the core of jazz but being creative, about improvisation, collaboration, some of the things that we've already talked, critical thinking. I mean, because so much of it is building and collaborating with other people. You think about drama and creativity. It's about imagination, improvisation. It's risk taking. It's making mistakes. That's really, I think, at the heart of creativity. And another example, I guess I would end with is, I was talking to one of our parents who, a couple of years ago, who is in charge of cybersecurity for a large multinational bank. And, he very technology oriented. And we were just talking about education. I said, well, if technology is at the heart of what you do and you see the applications and the needs of our students, in that field, why MPA? Why not another school that might, have all these tech classes and tech at the heart of what they do? And he said, well, Bill, he said, I want them at MPA because I value a liberal arts perspective. That's the setting in which students are able to be creative, to be curious, to think critically. That's what our employees need. They can learn math, they can learn coding, they can learn computer science, but they need to have these 6 C's at the heart of what they're doing in order to be successful in the field. And it really made me appreciate even more the emphasis that we have on the arts and the ability to foster those skills, that skill of creativity, to present them opportunities to take risks and to create conditions around which they can develop those important skills.
For sure. Thank you so much, Bill. And I also think it really relates well to problem solving and how we use creativity every single day in the makerspace and in all of our classes to solve problems in different ways, right? And to look at things from different perspectives. I just want to pause here for a moment. We only have about 5 minutes left. I really welcome any questions from our audience and from the people who are watching us. Please feel free to post those, and we'll be sure to address them. Lamar, we're going to shift to you now and talk a little bit about embracing culture. The way it's defined as part of the 6 C's really involves the ability for students to be in touch and appreciate everything that surrounds them. And I personally think that MPA really creates an atmosphere where students can do that because of our diversity, right? And also we have really high expectations for mutual respect. That's part of our core values here at MPA. But Lamar, talk a little bit about what diversity looks like at MPA in all of its forms, sort of how do we think about diversity? And then also talk a little bit about the work that's being done to recruit more teachers of color that represent our student body.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so one of the guiding questions that I subscribe to in the work that I do is, are we ready for the first student who walks through our doors? And the caveat to this question is we don't know who that student will be. And I think this reflects MPA's aspirations to be a diverse community, to cultivate this diverse community of learners who not only embrace who they are, their own unique individuality, but also to respect and give space to others. One of the things that I think has been very exciting for me in my short 7 months here is that MPA is not only thinking about students in how we embrace diversity. Of course, that's our priority, but we're really being more thoughtful and reflective on how do we as the adults, how do we as families, how do we as our broader community really embrace this idea, embrace these principles of empathy, as Dr. Hudson talked about earlier, empathy and doing what's right, being just, and creating that an environment where not only can people be the individuals, but they can have the success in the classroom and out of the classroom as well. So to speak to a little bit to some of the work that we're doing, as an example, is we understand how the MPA has a really diverse student body, but we have a commitment to there being a stronger relationship to our faculty and staff composition in the same diverse idea. And so we are taking an active approach. We're connecting with other institutions who facilitate, the education for teachers, other colleges and universities and organizations. We're actually going and finding those active networks where we can connect to those teachers of color, because this is a challenge for every school, to not only find teachers of color, but to embrace the idea of retaining those teachers as well. So we are diligently working through our HR procedures and policies to ensure that we open the gateway for more applicants to land in our competitive pools. And we are being thoughtful about how we develop our committees and who serves on those, the questions that we ask, the support structures that are in place, so that when we do find those committed teachers, those committed educators, we can ensure they're successful as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Lamar. I think the next one is really well related, and it's our last 6C. It's really about human connectivity, right? And as part of a global world where technology is really essential to everyday life, students need to connect with each other to build a better world and to build a better future for themselves and for other people. Bill, talk a little bit, you touched on one already, but talk a little bit about what some of our alums are doing in this area and kind of what types of roles they're playing right now.
Thank you. Yeah, as I did mention the one alum earlier, I love to be on the road and meeting our alumni, because they are doing fantastic things with the dream big, do right. They find the space here to dream and to dream big, and then they take what they've learned, these 6 C's and the content and the knowledge, and then do right in the world. A couple of examples come to mind. One that's been in the news most recently is Zach Quinn, a young entrepreneur that, as a result of a class that he took in college, he and a classmate formed the company Love Your Melon as an expression of social entrepreneurship, where they sell knit hats, and then the part of the proceeds then go to benefit children in cancer wards in hospitals across the country. It's been incredibly successful, and Zach is one of our alums that would track back the experience he had here at MPA. I think of another alum that I had the privilege of getting to know, Leslie Krupa. She is currently the policy director at the Tisch Center for Food Education and Policy at Columbia University. She went forward with a law degree initially, and then because she wanted to do more with that degree, she went back and got a degree in nutrition, and now is using her legal skills and her background in nutrition to advocate for public health policies. Another alum, David Slade, who's an assistant professor of infectious diseases at Loyola University Medical Center in Chicago. Again, someone that had a background in law, but then took that further, and his interest in healthcare, and through an internship through the National Institutes of Health, has now become an authority or well known for his interest in promoting healthcare policy that keeps the humanity and the needs of people first and foremost. Those are just three that I've had the privilege of meeting over the years that are really living out the dream big, do right, and being successful in the world and making a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Bill, and thank you to all of you who have joined me today, either here as presenters or listening from afar. We're just so grateful for the opportunity to talk about this topic because it really matters to all of us a whole lot at MPA. And we welcome any follow-up questions or thoughts or comments at admission@boundsparkacademy.org. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.